The other gods and all the fighting men slept through the night, but there was no such soothing sleep for Zeus. He was wondering how to honour Achilles and have the Greeks slaughtered in multitudes by their ships. He decided that the best way would be to send Agamemnon, son of Atreus, a destructive dream. So he spoke to one with winged words. Off you go, destructive dream, to the Greek ships. Go to Agamemnon in his hut, and repeat to him exactly what I say. Tell him to prepare his long-haired Greeks for battle at once. His chance of capturing the Trojans' town with its broad streets has come. The immortals that live on Olympus are no longer divided on that issue. Hera's entreaties have brought us all round, and the Trojans' fate is sealed. So he spoke, and the dream heard his instructions and left. It was soon at the Greek ships, where it sought out Agamemnon, and found him lying fast asleep in his hut. Assuming the appearance of Nestor, son of Neleus, Agamemnon's most valued adviser, it stood over his head and said, You sleep, son of the wise horse-tamer Atreus. It is not right for one in authority who has an army in his charge, a man with much on his mind, to sleep all night. Listen to me now, and understand that I come from Zeus, who, far off as he is much concerned on your behalf and pities you. He tells you to prepare your long-haired Greeks for battle at once. Your chance of capturing the Trojans' town with its broad streets has come. The immortals that live on Olympus are no longer divided on that issue. Hera's entreaties have brought them all round, and the Trojans' fate is sealed by Zeus. Remember what I have said, and do not forget it when you emerge from sweet sleep. With these words the dream went off, leaving Agamemnon with a false picture of the future in his mind. He imagined he would capture Priam's town that very day, the fool. He little knew what Zeus intended, nor all the sufferings and sorrows he had in store for both sides in the heat of battle. When he woke from his sleep, the divine voice was all about him. He sat up, got to his feet, and put on fine, soft, new-made tunic, and over that a great cloak. He bound a fine pair of sandals on his gleaming feet, slung a silver-riveted sword round his shoulders, picked up his ancestral, indestructible sceptre, and with this in his hand, walked down to the ships of the bronze-armoured Greeks. When the goddess Dawn reached high Olympus, announcing the new day to Zeus and the other gods, Agamemnon ordered his clear-voiced heralds to summon the long-haired Greeks to assembly. The heralds cried their summons, and the warriors quickly gathered. But first Agamemnon arranged a council of his senior advisers beside the ship of Nestor, lord of Pylos, and when he had called them together, he outlined his carefully considered plan. Friends, I was visited in my sleep by a dream from the gods, which came to me through the immortal night, and in its appearance, size, and physique, it looked very similar to godlike Nestor. It stood above my head and instructed me as follows. You sleep, son of the wise horse-tamer Atreus. It is not right for one in authority who has an army in his charge, a man with much on his mind, to sleep all night. Listen to me now, and understand that I have come from Zeus, who, far off as he is much concerned on your behalf and pities you. He tells you to prepare your long-haired Greeks for battle at once. Your chance of capturing the Trojans' town with its broad streets has come. The immortals that live on Olympus are no longer divided on that issue. Hera's entreaties have brought them all round, and the Trojans' fate is sealed by Zeus. Remember what I have said. With that it flew away, and I woke up. To work, then. We must get the troops under arms. But first, as is my right, I am going to test them by a speech in which I shall tell them to take their many-bent ships and sail for home. You must dissuade them from all sides." With these words Agamemnon sat down, and Nestor, who was the lord of sandy Pylos, got up. He had their interests at heart as he rose and addressed them. "Friends, rulers and leaders of the Greeks, if any other Greek had told us of a dream like this, we should have thought it false and distanced ourselves from it. But as it is, the man who claims to be the best of the Greeks saw it. To work, then, we must get the troops under arms." With these words he moved off, signalling the end of the meeting. The other sceptred lords stood up after Nestor and followed the example of this shepherd of the people, and the army hurried forward as troops of swarming bees do, streaming out in relays from a hollow rock. The bees fly in clusters toward the spring flowers and settle in swarms, some here, some there. So the many troops of men marched in squads from their ships and huts in front of the wide seashore to assembly. Rumour, the messenger of Zeus, spread through them like fire, speeding their steps. And now the assembly became a scene of turmoil. As they sat down, the ground groaned beneath their weight, and above the pandemonium the shouting of 9 heralds could be heard, calling them to come to order, stop the din, and pay attention to their Olympian-bred leaders. When, after some difficulty, the troops were brought to order in their seats and had settled down and stopped their chatter, Lord Agamemnon rose, holding his sceptre, which Hephaestus himself had made. Hephaestus gave it to Lord Zeus, son of Cronus, and Zeus to Hermes, the guide and slayer of Argus. Lord Hermes presented it to Pelops, the great charioteer, and Pelops passed it on to Atreus, shepherd of the people. When Atreus died, he left it to Thyestes, rich in flocks, and he in turn left it to Agamemnon to carry, to be a token of his lordship over many islands and all of Argos. Leaning on this sceptre, he spoke to the Greeks. "Friends, Greek warriors, servants of the war god Ares, Zeus, son of Cronus, has seriously deluded me, a crushing blow. That perverse god once solemnly assured me that we would sack Ilium with its fine walls and return home. But now his advice turns out to be an evil deception, and he is telling me to return home to Argos in disgrace, with half my army lost. It appears that this is what Almighty Zeus, who has brought down the high towers of many a town, and will destroy others yet, has decided. Such is his absolute power. But what a scandal! What a tale for our descendants' ears, that such a large and excellent force as ours should be engaged so ineffectually, with no final end in sight, in an unsuccessful struggle with a weaker enemy. If we and the Trojans swore a solemn truce, and each side held a count, the enemy reckoning only native Trojan, and we Greeks numbering off in tens, with the idea that each of our groups should have a Trojan to pour out its wine, many a group would go without a wine steward. Such I believe to be the odds we enjoy against the Trojans in the town itself. But they have numerous spear-wielding allies from many towns, who thwart me at every turn and defeat all my efforts to sack prosperous Ilium. 9 of the great Zeus's years have now passed. The timbers of our ships have rotted, and their rigging has perished. Our wives and little children sit at home and wait for us. Meanwhile, the task we set ourselves when we came here remains undone. So I suggest we all do what I now propose. Board ship and home to the land of our fathers. The Trojans' town, with its broad streets, will never fall to us." So he spoke, and his words went straight to the heart of every man in that crowd, except those who had attended the advisory council. And the whole assembly was swayed like the great rollers of the Icarian Sea, when they are swollen by a southeaster rushing down from Father Zeus's clouds. As the west wind rushes, tumultuously down to sway a deep harvest of corn, and the ears of the crop bend under it, so the whole assembly was swayed. They charged, shouting for the ships. The dust they kicked up with their feet hung high overhead. They shouted to each other to get hold of the ships and drag them down to the bright sea. They began clearing out the ships' runways. They even started shifting the props from under the hulls, and in their desire to be off, made a din that reached the sky. Then the Greeks would have returned home in defiance of destiny, if Hera had not spoken her mind to Athene. Athene Atritone, daughter of Zeus, who drives the storm cloud, this is a disaster. The Greeks will run away and sail home over the broad back of the sea to the land of their fathers, and leave Helen here for Priam, and the Trojans to boast about. Helen, for whom so many of her countrymen have died on Trojan soil, far from their own fatherland. But go down among these bronze-armoured Greeks at once, and use your eloquence to stop them. Deal with them man by man. Don't let them drag the curved ships down into the sea. So she spoke, and the goddess grey-eyed Athene complied. She came swooping down from the heights of Olympus, and, soon reaching the Greeks' swift ships, found Odysseus, equal in invention to Zeus, rooted to the spot. He had not even touched his good black ship. He was in complete despair. Grey-eyed Athene went up to him and said, "Olympian-born, son of Laertes, resourceful Odysseus, are you going to run off like this, falling aboard your many-bent ships to get home to the land of your fathers, and leaving Helen here for Priam and the Trojans to boast about? Helen, for whom so many of her countrymen have died on Trojan soil, far from their own fatherland. Don't stay here any longer, but go down among the Greek army. Use your eloquence to stop them. Deal with them man by man. Don't let them drag the curved ships down into the sea." So she spoke, and he recognized the voice of the goddess and set out at a run, throwing off his cloak to be picked up by Eurybates, his Ithacan attendant. He went straight to Agamemnon, borrowed from him his indestructible ancestral scepter, and with this in his hand went down among the ships of the bronze-armoured Greeks. When he came upon a lord and a man of rank, he would stand beside him and persuade him gently to stop. "You there, it is not right to threaten you. You are no coward, but go back to your seat yourself and make your men do the same. You do not really know what Agamemnon has in mind. This is only an experiment with the men. He will soon take it out on them. Did we not all hear what he said at the council? He will be angry with the troops, and may well punish them for this. Olympian-bred rulers have their pride, upheld in authority and championed as they are by Zeus wise in council." When he saw an ordinary warrior shouting his companions on, he struck him with the scepter and yelled orders at him. "You there! Get back to your seat and wait for orders from your superiors. Coward and weakling, you count for nothing in battle or council. We cannot all be leaders here, and mob rule is a bad thing. Let there be one commander, only one ruler, who is given the scepter of power and the right to rule by Zeus, son of sickle-wielding Cronus." So Odysseus acted, asserting his authority over the army, and now they all flocked back to the assembly from their ships and huts with a noise like the waves of the sounding sea, which thunder along the length of a beach when the deep lifts up its voice. They all sat down and were brought to order in their places, but for one man who refused to hold his tongue. This was Thersites, who loved the sound of his own voice, and had a large store of insulting language at his disposal. He used this gratuitously and offensively to needle his masters whenever he thought it would raise a laugh among the troops. He was the ugliest man that had come to Ilium. He was bandy-legged and limped. His hunched shoulders almost met across his chest. and his head rose to a point where a few short hairs sprouted. Nobody loathed the man more than Achilles and Odysseus, since he was always abusing them, but now it was against godlike Agamemnon that he aimed a shrill torrent of insults. The Greeks felt nothing but anger and resentment at him. Shouting at the top of his voice, he directed an abusive lecture at Agamemnon. "Son of Atreus, what are you blaming us for now? What more do you want? Your huts are full of bronze, and since we Greeks always give you first choice when we plunder a town, you have the pick of any number of women too. Maybe you are short of gold? A ransom, which some horse-taming Trojan will come along with from the town, to free a son of his who has been tied up and brought in by myself or another of the men? Or a new girl for you to sleep with and keep all to yourself? Though it is not right for you as our leader to create trouble for the army like this. As for you, my feeble friends, disgraces that you are, Greek women, I cannot call you men. Let's sail for home anyway and leave this man here in Troy to brood over his prizes all by himself. He'll soon find out how much he depends on us. Why, only a little while ago he dishonoured Achilles, a far better man than he is. He took his prize, removed her in person, and now has her for himself. But Achilles hasn't lost his temper, little do you know. He is relaxed about it, otherwise Agamemnon, that outrage would have been your last." So spoke Thersites, abusing Agamemnon, shepherd of the people. But godlike Odysseus was quickly at his side and looking blackly at him, attacked him and taught him a sharp lesson. "Thersites, what a brilliant speaker you are, of pure drivel. Hold your tongue and stop arguing with your leaders. No one else does. In my view, you are the worst of all the Greeks that followed the sons of Atreus to Ilium. So you had better stop criticising and hurling insults at them with an eye to getting home. Nobody here knows exactly how this business will end. We may return in triumph, we may not. But all you do is sit there and insult Agamemnon, son of Atreus, shepherd of the people, for the generosity the Greek warriors show him. Your speech was one long sneer. But I tell you bluntly, and I mean it, if I catch you once again acting as mindlessly as this, let my head be parted from my shoulders, and Telemachus be called no son of mine. If I don't get my hands on you, strip you of your clothes, the cloak and tunic that cover your genitals, thrash you, throw you out of the assembly under an ignominious hail of blows, and send you blubbering back to the ships." So he spoke, and struck him on the back and shoulders with the sceptre. Thersites cowered and burst into tears. A bloody bruise raised by the gold-studded sceptre swelled up on the man's back. He sat down, terrified and in pain, looking helplessly around, and brushed a tear away. The others, disgruntled though they were, had a good laugh at him. They looked at each other and said as one man, "Well done! There's many a fine thing to Odysseus's credit, what with his brilliant ideas and leadership in battle, but shutting up that ranting windbag in assembly is by far the best thing he has done for us. I don't think the great Thersites will be in a hurry to come here again and sling abuse and insults at our leaders." So the gathering spoke, and now Odysseus, sacker of towns, rose to speak with the sceptre in his hand. Grey-eyed Athene, disguising herself as a herald, stood beside him and called the assembly to order, so that the Greeks at the back as well as the front could hear his speech and consider his advice. Odysseus had their interests at heart as he rose and addressed them. "Lord Agamemnon, it seems the Greeks are determined to turn you into an object of contempt before all mankind, and to break the promise they made you on the voyage here from horse-grazing Greece, that you would never sail home till you had sacked Ilium with its fine walls. The way they whimper to each other about getting back, they might be little children or widowed wives. Not that I deny that our efforts here are enough to send any man away frustrated. A sailor on board his ship will start to get restless when winter gales and rising seas have cooped him up in harbour and kept him from his wife for even a month. But we have hung on here for 9 long years. Small blame, then, if the troops are getting restless by the ships. Yet it would be humiliating, after staying here for so long, to return home empty-handed. Be patient, my friends. Hold out a little longer, till we find out whether our priest Calchas prophesies the truth or not. We all know what I mean. In fact, you all saw the thing for yourselves, those whom the demons of death have not since come to carry away. It seemed like only yesterday the Greek ships were gathering at Aulis, ready to bring trouble to Priam and the Trojans. We were making perfect sacrifices to the gods on their holy altars round a spring under a fine plane tree, at the foot of which the sparkling water was gushing out, when a great sign appeared, a snake with blood-red markings on its back, an intimidating creature which Olympian Zeus himself had released into the light of day, darted out from below an altar and made straight for the tree. There was a brood of young sparrows on the highest branch, helpless little things nestling under the leaves. 8 birds in all, or 9, counting the mother of the hatch. All of them, cheeping piteously, and with their mother fluttering around and wailing for her dear children, were eaten by the snake. It got the mother too. It coiled itself up to strike and seized her by the wing as she flew past shrieking. But when it had devoured them all, mother and young, the god who had caused it to appear, Zeus, son of sickle-wielding Cronus, transformed it and turned it into a stone. We stood there transfixed by what had happened. But once the awe-inspiring prodigy had intruded on our sacrifice, Calchas interpreted the omen then and there. Why are you silent, long-haired Greeks? It was for us that Zeus, wise in counsel, staged this prophetic scene. It was late in coming, and will be late in fulfillment, but its glorious memory will not die. There were 8 young sparrows, making 9 with their mother, and all of these, mother and hatch, were devoured by the snake. 9, then, is the number of years we shall have to fight over Ilium, and in the 10th, its broad streets will be ours. That is what Calchas prophesied, and all he said is coming true. So, you Greek men-at-arms, you must all stand your ground till we capture Priam's great town. So he spoke, and the Greeks thundered out loud to show how well they had liked this speech from godlike Odysseus. Their intimidating roar echoed round the ships. Then Nestor the Gerenian charioteer addressed them too. Well, you might be little children with no interest in war at all, to judge by all this talk. What will become of our agreements and oaths? We may as well throw onto the fire all our plans and strategies, all our pledges sealed in wine, our right hands in which we place such trust. Words are the only weapons we are using now. Given how long we have been here, they will get us nowhere. Agamemnon, be true as always to your firm resolve, and lead the Greeks into the thick of the action. If there are 1 or 2 traitors among us, scheming to sail for home, before they find out whether Zeus was telling us the truth, let them rot. They will not succeed, for I am convinced that Zeus, the almighty son of Cronus, nodded his approval of us on the day we got aboard our swift ships to bring death and destruction to the Trojans. There was a flash of lightning on our right, a sign that all would be well. Let there be no scramble to get home then, till every man of you has slept with a Trojan wife, and oh my God, really? And taken revenge for all the sweat and tears Helen has caused you. But if anyone does have a violent urge to be off, He has only to touch his well-benched black ship and, as far as everyone else is concerned, he will be ensuring his own death and destiny. Now, my lord, think things over carefully and take advice from another. Here is my own. It is not to be put aside lightly. Sort your men out, Agamemnon, into their tribes and clans, so that clan helps clan and tribes support each other. I think I might have heard a mouse dying in the distance. It's actually probably just one of my children, but what the hell was that squeak? If you do this and the Greeks comply, you will find out who are the cowards and who the brave among your commanders and troops, for each man will be fighting at his brother's side, and you will soon find out whether it is the gods' will that stands between you and the sack of Ilium, or the cowardice of your warriors and their incompetence in battle. Lord Agamemnon replied and said, One more debate where you, venerable sir, have carried all before you. Father Zeus, Athene, and Apollo, give me 10 such advisers as Nestor, and the town of Lord Priam would soon be captured, sacked, and turned over to Greek hands. But Zeus, who drives the storm cloud, the son of Cronus, will torment me. He entangles me in pointless bickering and rows. Look at the way Achilles and I quarrelled and exchanged insults over a girl. Though it was I who lost my temper first. If ever he and I see eye to eye once more, there will be no stay of execution for the Trojans, not for a moment. Now let us eat and prepare ourselves for battle. Sharpen your spears, adjust your shields, see that your horses are fed, check your chariots, and be ready to battle it out grimly all day. There will be no respite, not for a moment, till night comes and separates the forces. The strap of a man's shield will be soaked with the sweat from his chest. His hand will be weary on his spear. His horses pulling at his polished chariot will be covered in lather. And as for anyone I see who prefers to loiter by the big ships far from battle, nothing can save him. He is for the dogs and birds. So he spoke, and the Greeks thundered out loud, like a wave against the rocky promontory. What is that word? Like a wave against the rocky promontory of a high headland when the south wind descends and whips up the seas. The waves, raised by winds from all quarters, never leave it in peace from any direction. They rose from the assembly at once and dispersed among the ships, where they lit fires in their huts and fed. Each man, as he sacrificed to one of the immortal gods, prayed that he might come through the grind of battle with his life. Agamemnon, lord of men himself, sacrificed a fatted 5-year-old ox to Zeus, almighty son of Cronus, and invited the senior advisers of the Greeks to attend. Nestor first of all, then Lord Idomeneus, the 2 Ajaxes, Diomedes son of Tydeus, and for a 6th Odysseus, equal in invention to Zeus. Menelaus, master of the battle cry, came without needing an invitation, since he knew very well how heavy his brother Agamemnon's burden was. Standing round the ox, they took up the sacrificial grains. Lord Agamemnon addressed them and prayed, Zeus, greatest and most glorious, God of the black cloud dwelling in the skies, grant that the sun may not set and darkness fall before I bring Priam's smoke-blackened palace crashing down, send his gates up in flames, and rip the tunic on Hector's chest. And at his side let many of his friends fall and bite the dust. So he spoke, but Zeus did not grant his prayer. He accepted the offering, but in return doubled his load of misery. When they had made their prayers and thrown the grain over the victim, They first drew back the animal's head and slit its throat and skinned it. Then, for the god's portion, they cut out the thigh bones, wrapped them in folds of fat, and laid raw meat from the rest of the animal above them. These pieces they burnt on spits stripped of leaves, then pierced the entrails and held them over the flames. When the god's portion had been consumed by fire, they ate the offal and then carved the rest of the victim into small pieces, pierced them with skewers, roasted them carefully, and drew them all off. When their work was done and the meal prepared, they feasted, and no one went without a fair share. Their hunger and thirst satisfied, Nestor, the Gerenian charioteer, began and spoke his mind to them. Most glorious son of Atreus, Agamemnon, lord of men, let us not prolong this meeting any more, nor put off the work that the gods have set our hands to. Come, let the heralds of the bronze-armoured Greeks gather the troops from the ships for battle. Then we could go round the whole Greek army together and soon unleash the dogs of war. So he spoke, and Agamemnon, lord of men, complied. He gave immediate orders to his clear-voiced heralds to call the long-haired Greeks to battle stations. They cried their summons, and the men quickly gathered. The Olympian-bred lords under Agamemnon bustled about marshalling the troops, and with them went grey-eyed Athene. She was holding her splendid cloak, the unfading, everlasting aegis, from which 100 gold tassels flutter, all beautifully woven, each worth 100 head of cattle. Darting about with this, she raced through the ranks, urging the men forward, and filling the heart of every Greek with the courage to do battle and fight the enemy relentlessly. At once the prospect of battle became sweeter to them than returning in their hollow ships to the land of their fathers. As destructive fire ravages a great forest on the mountain heights, and the glint of the flames is seen from far away, so, as they fell in, the dazzling glitter of their magnificent bronze armour flashed through the air to the skies. Like the many flocks of birds, geese, cranes, or long-necked swans that gather in the Asian meadow by the streams of Cayster, and wheel around here and there, revelling in their flight, and with a great racket spread out over the ground, and the meadow is filled with sound, so the many groups poured from their ships and their huts onto the plain of the river Scamander, and the earth beneath resounded intimidatingly to the tramp of marching men and horses' hooves, as they took their positions in the flowery meadows of Scamander, countless as the many leaves and flowers in their season. Like the many groups of busy flies that swarm around sheepfold in spring, when the milk splashes the pails, so many long-haired Greeks were drawn up on the plain against the Trojans, determined to smash through them. Like the goat herds who so easily sought out their wandering flock of goats when they had become mixed up at pasture, so the commanders deployed men here and there to advance to battle. And in among them moved Lord Agamemnon, with his eyes and head like those of Zeus who delights in thunder, with a waist like the war gods, and a chest like Poseidon's. Like a bull that stands out clearly from all the cattle in a herd, conspicuous among the assembled cows, so Zeus made Agamemnon look that day, conspicuous among the crowd, and eclipsing all other warriors. Tell me now, you muses that live on Olympus, since you are goddesses, are present everywhere and know everything, while we men have only hearsay to go on and know nothing. Tell me, who were the leaders and the commanders of the Greeks? As for the rank and file, I could not name or even count them, not if I had 10 tongues and 10 mouths, a voice that could never tire, and a heart of bronze, unless you, muses of Olympus, daughters of Zeus, who drives the storm cloud, remind me how many came to Ilium. Oh God, it's going to be a list of names. So I shall list the captains and their ships from first to last. I hate it when he does this. The contingent from Boeotia was commanded by Peneleos, Latus, Arcesilaus, Prothoenor, and Clonius. Clonius? Oh, I don't know. The towns the Boeotians came from were Hyri and Stony Aulis, Shonus and Scolus, Eteonus with its many ridges, Thespiaea and Graea, and spacious Macalessus, Hama, Elysian, and Erythrae, Elion, Hyle, and Petion, Ocalie, and the stronghold of Medion, Copei, Eutrosis, and Thisbe, rich in doves, Coronae, and grassy Haliartus, Plataea, Glissus, and the stronghold of Lower Thebes, sacred Onchestros, Poseidon's lovely grove, Arne with its many vines, and Medea, holy Nysa, and remote Anthedon. This contingent under their commanders came in 50 ships, with 120 young Boeotians in each. The contingent from Orchomenus, men from Aspledon and Minion Orchomenus, was commanded by Ascalaphus and Ialmenus. These two were sons of Ares. Astyoche, a modest young girl, had conceived them in the palace of her father Actor, son of Azius. She had gone upstairs with the mighty war god and slept with him in secret. They had come in 30 hollow ships. The contingent from Phocis was commanded by Schedius and Epistrophus, sons of the great-hearted Iphistus, son of Jesus, son of Neubulus, The towns they came from were Cyparissus and rocky Pytho, holy Crisa, Daulis, and Panopeus. Around Anemorea, I'm going to get through this because around Anemorea, around Anemorea and Hyampolis and the bright river Cephisus, and Lilaea, where the Cephisus, rises. This contingent came under their commanders in 40 black ships. Their leaders marshalled the Phocian ranks and set them in their battle stations next to the Boeotians on the left. This is really painful, I'm so sorry. The contingent from Locris was led by swift-footed Ajax, son of Oileus, the lesser Ajax. That's mean. Not such a man as Ajax, son of Telamon, indeed inferior by far. He was short and wore linen body protection, but no Greek was his equal in spearmanship. The towns his following had come from were Sinus, Opous, and Caliaris, Besser, Scaphe, and lovely Orgyia, Tarphe and Thronion, and around the streams of the river Boagrius. This contingent came under Ajax's command in 40 black ships manned by the Locrians who live across the straits from holy Euboea. The contingent from Euboea consisted of the Abantes, breathing courage. The towns these men came from, why have you got to list all the towns? Were Chalcis, Eretria, and Histiaea, with its many vines, Cerinthus by the sea and high fortress of Dius, and Caristus and Styra, and Styra. These were all captained by Elephenor, ally of the war god, son of Chalcodon, and leader of the great-hearted Abantes. His followers were quick on their feet. They wore their long hair at the back. Fighters hoping to lunge with their ash spears and rip through the armour of their enemies' chests. This contingent came under Elephenor's command in 40 black ships. That's not it, is it? The next contingent came from the stronghold of Athens, the community of great-hearted Erechtheus. Erechtheus? It might be. Erechtheus was a child of the fruitful earth who was brought up by Athene, daughter of Zeus. She had established him at Athens in her own rich temple, where Athenian youths offered him bulls and rams every year. This contingent was commanded by Menestheus, son of Petios. He had no rival on earth in the art of handling infantry and chariots. Nestor was the only competition, and he was an older man. The Athenians came under Menestheus's command in 50 black ships. Oh, I'm not done. How many does this go on for? Oh, like 2 more pages? The contingent from Salamis was led by Ajax, son of Telamon, in 12 ships. He beached them where the Athenian force was stationed. The contingent from Argos contained men from the towns of Argos and well-walled Tyrins, from Hermione and Asine with their deep gulfs, from Troezen, Ione, and vine-clad Epidaurus, and from Aegina and Masses. They were commanded by Diomedes, master of the battle cry, and my cats are attacking each other. Hold on. Can you, for 2 seconds, leave each other alone? It's already difficult getting through this list of bloody names without you two in the background going, meow. Where was I? They were commanded by Diomedes, master of the battle cry, and Sthenelus, son of far-famed Capenius. Okay, now, in all of the other ones that I have recorded so far, because I went out of order, and in the Iliad, I pronounced this name really wrong. I pronounced it Euryalus, but it's not, it's Euryalus. Okay, so, Euryalus, a godlike man, son of Megistius. Why have you got to go son of, and then his son, so son and grandfather, and why are we doing the entire freaking bloodline? Euryalus. No, I've said it again. Euryalus. No. Oh my god. I hate that name. Euryalus, a godlike man, son of Lord Megistius, son of Talius, had come as third in command, but Diomedes, master of the battle cry, was in charge of the whole force. This contingent came under their commanders in 80 black ships. The contingent from Mycenae contained men from the stronghold of Mycenae, from wealthy Corinth and well-built Cleone, from Orneae, I don't care anymore, from Orneae and lovely Erythraia, from Sicyon, where Adrastus reigned in early years, from Hyperesse and lofty Gonoessa, Pelene and around Aegion, and from the whole length of the coast and broad lands of Helice. Lord Agamemnon, son of Atreus, commanded these men in their 100 ships. His following was by far the finest and most numerous. He armed himself in the gleaming bronze, exultant, and stood out among all the other warriors because he was the best man, commanding by far the largest force. Yeah, I'm taking a break. The contingent from hollow Lacedaemon contained men from that lovely land with its many ravines, and men from Pharis, Sparta, and Messe rich in doves. From some place I cannot pronounce and another place I cannot pronounce, from Amyclae and the seaside town of Helos, and from Otylos and Laas. Menelaus, master of the battle cry, brother of Agamemnon, commanded their 60 ships. They had a station separate from the Mycenaean contingent. Menelaus strode among them, confident in his readiness for action and urging them to battle. Nobody was more eager than he to take revenge for all the sweat and tears Helen had caused them. The contingent from Pylos came from there and from lovely Arene, from Thyron, where the river Alpheus is forded, from handsome Api, from Cyparissus, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce that one, Pteleus, that's the one, and Helos, and from Dorion, where the Muses met some guy, the Thracian poet, and ended his career while he was on his way from Oechalia and the home of Oechalian Eurytus. He had boasted that he would win a singing competition, even if the Muses themselves, daughters of Zeus, who drives the storm cloud, were to take part. This angered them. They paralysed him, robbed him of the divine gift of song, and made him forget his lyre. Nestor, the Gerenian charioteer, commanded these men. They had come in 90 hollow ships. The contingent from Arcadia came from the lands where Mount Cyllene lifts its peak, and Iphitus was buried. Where men are trained in hand-to-hand fighting, the towns they came from were Pheneus, Orchomenus, rich in sheep, Rhipe and Strati, and windy Enispe, Tegea and lovely. Why do we need to know all of these places? You're basically just listing the whole of Greece. Lord Agapenor, son of Acanius, commanded their 60 ships. Many Arcadians, expert fighters, boarded each ship. Agamemnon, lord of men, had himself given Agapenor the well-bent ships in which to cross the wine-dark sea, as the Arcadians knew nothing of seafaring. So he gave them the ships. The contingent from Elis. How many more pages? Oh, God. I'm going to get really sarcastic. I'm very sorry. The contingent from Elis came from Buprasium, and as much of the bright land of Elis as lies between Hermine, furthest someplace, the Olenian rock, and Elysian. They had 4 commanders, each with 10 swift ships filled with these troops from Elis. Amphimachus, son of who cares, and Thalpius, son of Eurytus, grandsons of Actor, commanded 2 squadrons. Mighty Diores, son of a bitch, the third, and godlike Polyxenius, just Polyguy, the son of Lord Agasthenes, Augeas' son, the fourth. The contingent from Dull Land came from there, and the sacred Echinian islands across the sea from Elis. Megas, equal of Ares and son of Phyleus, commanded them. Phyleus was a charioteer dear to Zeus, who had quarrelled with his father and migrated to Dulicum. I don't care if that's correct or not. This contingent came under Megas' command in 40 black ships. The contingent from proud Cephallenia was led by Odysseus. It contained men from Ithaca and Neritos, with its quivering leaves, from that place and rugged that place, from forested, that place, and Samos, and the mainland opposite the islands. Odysseus, equal in wisdom to Zeus, commanded these men. The contingent came under his command in 12 ships with crimson-painted bows. The contingent from Aetolia was led by Thoas, son of this guy, Andy. It contained men from Pleuron and Olenus, Pylene, Chalcis by the sea, and rocky Calydon. Thoas led them, because the sons of great-hearted Oeneus were dead. So was Oeneus himself, and so was auburn-haired Meleager, on whom lordship over all the Aetolians had devolved. This contingent came under Thoas's command in 40 black ships. So many more people and places. The contingent from Crete was led by great spearman Idomeneus. It contained men from Cnossus, from well-walled Gortyn, from Lyctus, Miletus, Chalky Lycastus, that place, and Rhytion, welcoming towns, all of them, and other troops that had their homes in Crete with its 100 towns. The great spearman Idomeneus and Meriones, equal of the murderous war god Ares, led these troops. These contingent came under their two leaders' command in 80 black ships. The contingent from proud Rhodes was brought by Telepole, the tall and handsome son of Heracles, in 9 ships. The Rhodians occupy 3 separate parts of the island, Lindus, Ialisus, and Chalky place made of chalk. The famous spearman Telepole, who led these forces, was son of mighty Heracles by Asti, Chia. Heracles carried her... Oh, that's a name. I thought it was another place. Heracles carried her off from Ephyra and the river Selleis, after sacking many of their chieftains' strongholds. Telepole, when he had grown to manhood in the palace at Tiryns, killed his own father's uncle, Licymnius, ally of the war god, who was an old man by then. Telepole immediately built some ships, gathered a large following, and fled overseas, menaced as he was by the other sons and grandsons of mighty Heracles. Thus, as a fugitive, and after many hardships, he reached Rhodes. His people settled in 3 districts according to their tribes, and enjoyed the favour of Zeus, son of Cronus, lord of gods and men, who showered untold wealth on them. The contingent from Cyme was brought by Nereus in 3 trim ships. They only had 3 ships? Nereus was son of a bitch and lord, whoever the fuck that was, the handsomest Greek that came to Ilium, with the exception of matchless Achilles. Does he have an ego to match? But he was a weakling, and his following was small. The contingent from Kos, city of Eurypylus, contained men that from that island and Nisibris, Crap, and Cassus, and Calli Isles. It was led by holy hell and Antiphus, the 2 sons of Lord Thalassus. Nope, that's not how you pronounce that, and I don't even care. Son of Heracles. This contingent came in 30 hollow ships. The Myrmidon contingent contained men that lived in the Pelasgian Argos, from Elis and Alope, from that place and this place, and Hellas, land of lovely women. They were called the Myrmidons, the Hellenists, and the Achaeans. Achilles led their 50 ships, but at this time they had forgotten the sound and fury of war, since there was no one to marshal them in battle order, for swift-footed godlike Achilles was lying by his ships, furious over fair-cheeked Briseis, the girl he had won from a place that they sacked by the sweat of his brow. When he sacked that place and stormed the walls of Thebes and brought down the spearmen Minos and I don't even know, the sons of Lord Eunice. Seleucus's son, why do you need to list the grandfather too? He lay there pining for this girl, but he was soon to arise. The contingent from Phylace contained men from there and from Flowery, who gives a shit, Demeter's sanctuary, from Iton, mother of sheep, Antron by the sea, and Pelatius, deep in grass. Warlike Protilaus will do, led them while he lived, but by now the black earth had received him, so his wife left in Phylace, her cheeks lacerated, and his house half built. He had been the first of the Greeks to leap ashore, but a Trojan killed him as he did so. Oh dear. However, his followers were not left without a chief, though they did miss their leader. Podarces, ally of the war god and son of whatever his name is, lord of many sheep, commanded them. Podarces was a brother of the great-hearted Nobody Cares, and a younger brother, the warlike Nobody Cares, being both the older and the better man, so their troops did not lack a leader. Oh, God, is there much more to this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Is it just... Is it just ships and people and places? Or is there more? Oh, okay, right. So basically, you don't need this page, and you don't need the rest of that, because nobody is going to test you on who came in what ship and from where, and where their bloody mother was from. So we skip ahead. These then were the leaders and commanders of the Greeks. Now you tell me, Muse, of all the men and horses that crossed with Agamemnon and Menelaus, which were by far the best? Seriously, Homer. Of the horses, the best by far were the mares of Admentus, which his sons Eumelus drove. Swift as birds, alike in coat and age of exactly equal height. These mares had been reared in that place by Apollo, lord of the silver bow, to strike panic in the ranks. Of the men, Ajax, son of Telamon, was by far the best, but only while Achilles was in a rage, since he, matched the son of Peleus, was the finest man of all and drove the finest horses. But he was now lying by his seafaring beaked ships, and we already know this because you told us 3 times. Meanwhile on the beach his men amused themselves with archery and throwing discus and spears, and the horses stood idle, each by its own chariot, munching clover and parsley from the marsh. Their masters' chariots lay covered up inside their huts, and the men themselves, who missed their war-loving chief, strolled aimlessly about the camp and did no fighting. I don't know if you can hear my cats, but they're being really loud. The Greeks advanced as if fire was grazing over the whole land. Earth groaned beneath them, as it does when Zeus, who delights in thunder, is angry and lashes the ground above the giant Typhoeus in the Arimian mountains, where people say Typhoeus sleeps. So the earth groaned loudly under the feet of marching as they advanced at the speed across the plain. I hate this book. The messenger goddess, swift Iris, quick as the wind, was sent to the Trojans by Zeus, who drives the storm cloud with bad news. They had all gathered, young and old alike, in assembly at Priam's gates. Swift-footed Iris came up to them and spoke in a voice like that of Priam's son Polites, who because of his speed was posted as a lookout for the Trojans on top of old some guy's tomb, waiting for an attack from the Greek ships. Swift-footed Iris spoke with his voice. Venerable sir, you are still as fond of interminable talk as you were in peacetime. But inescapable war is upon us. Indeed, I have taken part in many battles. I have never seen so great and formidable force. They are advancing over the plain to fight at town. Like the leaves of the forest or the sands of the sea, Hector, I urge you above all to do as I say. In his great town, Priam had many allies, but these scattered foreigners all speak different languages. Let their own commanders, in each case, issue orders to them. Draw up their people and lead them out to battle. So she spoke, and Hector did not fail to recognize the words of a god and immediately dismissed the assembly. They rushed to arms, the gates were thrown open, and the whole army charged out. foot soldiers and charioteers. The noise they made was tremendous. Well, back to the story. Outside the town, and some way off in the plain, there is a high mound with open ground on every side, which men call Bramble Hill, but the immortals call the tomb of dancing Myrene. It was here that the Trojans and allies were marshalled battle. Priam's son, great Hector of the flashing helmet, was in charge of the Trojans. With him marched by far the finest and most numerous force, keen spearmen of all of them. Keen spearmen, all of them. The Dardanians were led by Anchises. Oh, look at this! Okay, hang on. The Dardanians were led by Anchises' admirable son Aeneas, whom celestial Aphrodite conceived for Anchises, this sleeping mortal on the slopes of Mount Ida. Aeneas was not in sole command, but was supported by Antenor's two sons, Areolocus and Acamas, both experienced in every kind of fighting. Then that lived in Zelea, under the lowest spurs of Mount Ida, drank the dark water of the Aesus. A prosperous Trojan clan were led by the famous son of Lycaon, Pandarus, whose bow was a gift from Apollo himself. Are we doing the entire freaking Trojan fleet too? Yeah, apparently we are. Okay, so more places, more names I can't pronounce, more names are called Axios, Odius and Epistrophus. This isn't stories, it's just Chromis and Omus were in command of the Mysians. Omus was an author, but all his bird law did not save him from the Black Hand. He fell a victim to footed Achilles in a riverbed. He was making havoc of Trojans and their eyes. Phorcys and godlike Asanius, the Phrygians, eager for battle, from remote Ascania. The Maeonians were led by Mesilas and Antiphus, the sons of Telemenes, whose mother was Lake. She was a bloody lake. Yeah, that's just more thing you don't really care about and need to know. Sarpedon and matchless Glaucus led the Lycian from distant Lycia and Ing Xanthus. That is the end of, and I am so sorry.